Good afternoon, everybody. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the meeting. I'm going to pass today's meeting over to our chair, Charlotte LaFranc. And Charlotte, just so you know, everybody that we were waiting to speak today or be introduced is here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you and welcome everyone. It's so lovely to see so many folks on the screen, and we look forward to a time when we will again be back in person. Good afternoon, welcome. My name is Charlotte LaFranc. I am honored and privileged to be the chair of the Windsor-Essex Local Immigration Partnership, and I'm also an equity, diversity, and inclusion specialist with the Windsor-Essex Children's Aid Society. Just before we begin, we want to take a moment just to center ourselves and acknowledge the land that we are on. And certainly you can see what is on the screen before you. Every time that we do a land acknowledgement, for me, it's personally an opportunity to reflect and to reflect on my own role and my own responsibility in the process of truth, in the process of reconciliation, and in the process of decolonization. So certainly as we come together today, I invite you all to sit in that space of reconciliation and in that space of reflection for yourself. We begin by acknowledging that the Windsor-Essex area occupies what was the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of the Niswi, Ishokautuwan, Anishinaabe. And specifically, we recognize the Three Fires Confederacy, which was comprised of the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi peoples. Certainly, many Indigenous nations and peoples were connected to this land, and this land was very important. So we want to acknowledge the land and the surrounding waters for sustaining us, and we want to work to stand and to get together in our commitment to protect and restore them from environmental degradation. We also acknowledge Walpole Island First Nation. We acknowledge the Caldwell First Nation, whose territory is Pelee Island and Point Pelee, as well as many others. And certainly as we continue to reflect upon our collective commitment and responsibility towards the truth and reconciliation and those calls to actions, you know, we think about everything that's gone on in our country over this year with the visit of the Pope and with the passing of our Queen. We think about September 30th, the second National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which is approaching. And certainly for us as a council and a group that comes together to enhance positive and meaningful outcomes for residents in our region, we as members of all of these various systems, we must not forget that this work will be incomplete if we don't seek to face and reconcile our past as a nation and the past of those systems in particular towards the creation of a more just and equitable future for the Indigenous peoples in the whole of our society. So thank you for that. And with that being said, we will officially start the meeting. We'll remind you that the meeting is being recorded. You probably got that little notice and you had to say got it. We're going to ask folks to mute their devices and unless they're speaking. And yes, and again, I'm Charlotte LaFranc, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. Just to provide a really quick context in terms of the work of the WELIP. The WELIP is a community planning body which is now 100 or more members strong, which really comes together to create a more welcoming and inclusive community for newcomers, immigrants, and refugees at both the systemic and structural levels. And when we say the WELIP is really all of us as a collective doing this work collectively. And normally I would love to reflect and be reflective on the work that's been done and the work that's to come, but we have such an incredibly jam-packed agenda today that we're really going to let the work speak for itself. So we're really looking forward to getting into that. Just before we do that though, we do want to just do a quick review of the meeting notes for those that were in attendance at the May 25th meeting. And they were sent out ahead of time. So if you want to just have a look, or if you've had an opportunity to have a look, anything that we need to make note of, anything additions or omissions that are noted. And so thankful to Alana and Monica and our team that do such a phenomenal job capturing these notes and the rich discussions that are had. And I know for me, when I see it go by, I always remember all of the great work and the great pieces that we've talked about. So it's a great refresher. Anything from the meeting notes? Anything that we've missed? All right. Well, if they're good to go, thank you. We can proceed. And we have a special welcome, a special introduction that we would like to make. We are so thankful to our funding body, which is Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada, or IRCC. And we have a very special guest joining us today that we wanted to just welcome and give her an opportunity to say hello. So welcome, Morgan Halstead. I believe you are here. And if you want to just say hello, we'd love to invite you to bring a greeting. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. I am very happy to be here. Thank you for calling me a special guest. I don't feel like I'm a special guest. I'm just here. But I am doing an acting assignment right now as manager of Southwestern Ontario. And of course that includes Windsor. And so I'm very happy to join your meeting and find out all of the great work that you've been doing. I've been working with settlement since 2000, so I've been doing this for a long time, and I mean, I worked with Windsor, but when I first started, really when I was an officer in Toronto. So I'm familiar with some of the SPOs. I'm not sure what SPOs are still around, but I'm familiar with the area. I'm familiar with a number of the SPOs that are in Windsor. So I'm very happy to be back involved with you. Now, the only thing that Murray thought it would be good to update on is that we have some changes that are happening internally. We have our directors changing. I know Diane Holden right now has been the acting director, and we have a new director coming in for a year, Christine Charbonneau. And what are the other changes? We do have, I'm trying to think. I mean, you must be familiar with our new director general, because that change has been around for a while. But Christine, she came from Settlement Network in the beginning. She's been with IRCC for 19 years, and she started with Settlement Network, but she hasn't been with Settlement Network the whole time. And Patricia Wilson, our new director general, has been there since June. So that's not fully new news. So I'm sure that you guys are aware of that. But and me. So, and those are basically the changes. And new staff, we're constantly trying to make sure that settlement officers are replaced when they take on another position. So I can't guarantee that there won't be more new staff.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Morgan. And certainly we can make sure that you do have an updated membership list in terms of our membership, which will give you a really good view of the landscape of the service providers in Windsor Essex, because almost all of them are on our council. So welcome and thank you for that. And thank you to all of the support that we receive from IRCC, and just acknowledging Murray as well. And I don't know, Murray, if you wanted to add anything. I see your mic's off. If you wanted to add anything to that, we certainly would welcome you to do that.
I think I'm unmuted. I still don't have the hang of Zoom, you guys. Teams. The only thing, and Jillian Wan, who was director and has been acting director general, is retiring. It's her gain and our loss, because I really liked working with her. Probably the most personal director I've had experience, personable director I've had experience with. Plus the fact she grew up in Windsor and Riverside didn't hurt us at all in Windsor, because she knew the community. And I'm not saying she was biased or anything, but you know, it was obvious she kept an eye on Windsor, and through the WELIP and special approval for funding, was able to provide funds for WELIP to have a focus on migrant workers, especially during COVID, when COVID ran rampant through our farms and even caused some loss of life. So that funding we were able to continue for the full 5-year cycle of the WELIP agreement, not just a one-off funded activity. So in my comments to Jillian when she leaves, I've acknowledged that, because I thought that was something on her point. I remember her calling me and saying, what can we do for Essex County, that because migrant workers are not our clients. So going through the WELIP was the ideal way to try to help. And that's an ongoing activity of WELIP. So there's our SPOs were sent, or should have been sent, an invite for September 27th. I believe there's a chance for SPOs to say thank you and good luck to Jillian if they want to join. And if you don't have that, you know, any of your officers can send you that invite. So just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Murray. And thank you for acknowledging Jillian. Many will remember, if you attended our 10th anniversary celebration, she was there. And just really connecting some of the dots sometimes behind the scenes about the importance of moving some of these systemic and structural pieces forward. So, and how important that work is behind the scenes. So thank you for that acknowledgement, and thank you to both of you, Murray and Morgan, and all of our IRCC folks for your continued support. And Morgan, I'm really thrilled to show you some of the best and brightest and most passionate of our community today. So we will certainly now turn it over to them. And first up on our agenda is our project manager, Mary Ellen Bernard.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to take a couple of minutes, first of all, to welcome Morgan. And while you haven't worked with people in Windsor very much, I think you're really going to enjoy it. Most people do. And we look forward to meeting you. Hopefully you will be able to come down when we start having in-person meeting again, which we hope will be sometime in the near future anyway. I personally hope so. But welcome. I think it's a very friendly group. And as you can see, it's a large group of really interested people and a great group to work with. So we certainly want to welcome you. I'd also like to just divert from the agenda for another minute, if I can take that. And IRCC is not the only organization which has had some changes in staffing. So the City of Windsor holds the agreement with IRCC for the Windsor Essex Local Immigration Partnership. And the lead with our department for the past 9 years has been Yelena Payne. So as you're probably aware, Yelena moved to a different position, still within the city. And Debbie Cerconi, who I believe is on the call, was very kind to take over the reins as commissioner. But Andrew Daher, who is also on the call, has recently been named Commissioner for Human and Health Services. So I just wanted to welcome Andrew, and hopefully he'll be able to attend as many meetings as possible. I don't know if you have a 2 minute, you're not allowed 2 minutes, you're allowed 1 minute to say hello.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. It's great to see so many familiar faces around this table. As many of you may know of me before, in my previous role, I was the Executive Director of Employment and Social Services. So I worked with many of you around this table, and so many great faces and some new faces I've never seen. So really looking forward to working with all of you in a much different capacity, but and very excited to be participating on this committee. So great to see everyone, and that's my spiel for less than a minute. So I did a good job, I bet. Perfect.
Thank you very much. So, okay, so I have been asked just to speak briefly on the 2022-23 WeLIP TOR as terms of reference. As some of you who have been with the LIP for a while may recall, this is one of our, I want to say, annual tasks, is we look at our terms of reference to see if it's still meeting our needs as a collaborative, or if we need to make any changes. And at the end of our last review, I think it was last year, we had some comments that over this last year, 2022, we should look at adding some type of language which really speaks to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that is being worked on. So we are actually doing some different work on that through a task force. But the executive met and had quite a lengthy discussion, actually, talking about what type of language we should add to the terms of reference, and also if there's a need to add it in more than one location within the terms of reference. Because as we know, this is a collaborative, it is not an organization per se. So it has to be, I think, integrated in a specific way. But it also puts the onus on all the members to be really walking the walk here and talking the talk. So we're trying to look at ways we can be really adding it to our terms of reference in a meaningful way. So I'm going to just let you know that you will be getting a draft, but it's probably going to be, it's a little bit out yet, I'd say another month or two. And I'm not sure if Charlotte or Reham want to add to my comments at all. But we will be getting a draft out to you, so we can be doing some revisions to it and approving it by the end of 2022.
Thank you for that, Mary Ellen. And just, I guess, do you want to say something, Reham? I see your mic just.
Just related to that you and I, Charlotte, are working on or have been working on the TORs to make sure that we reflect also the inclusion and racism lens with the equitable lens, and what future steps can we have as part of through the WeLIP to ensure that we are contributing to that realm. That was all what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that, Reham, and thank you for all of your work on that. And we have to acknowledge our working group and our executive, who have really done an incredible amount of put a lot of thought and care into that document. And thank you to Mary Ellen for allowing us to slow down the process to say, let's put this over to the next meeting so that we can do a really good and thoughtful job on this, because it's important. So thank you to everyone, and more to come on that. So next up on our agenda, we're really pleased to have our next guest from the University of Windsor Continuing Education. We'd like to welcome Dr. Benjamin Wright.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to set up my little slideshow here, and hopefully it works. Let's see. Here we go. Can everybody see that? Great. Well, thank you for the invite today to talk to you guys. I really appreciate it. There's just a couple of things. I know you have a big agenda here, so I'm going to keep my remarks brief. For those of you who know what we do at Continuing Education, and for those who don't, I'm just going to talk a little about what some of our current and developing sort of programming is and how it relates to the work that you're doing. The first thing to know is, obviously, some of you recognize that the university has a new strategic plan that they are sort of unraveling over the next few months. And one of the cornerstones to the new initiative is for better and more integrated community support. And I think we play in continuing ed a pivotal role in providing that. So our elevator pitch to what continuing education is and does is that we provide lifelong learning opportunities that facilitate personal, professional, and community growth. And that can mean a lot. And often it does mean a lot based on the diversity of our programming. We've been doing this for over 15 years under different names. We started as the Center for Executive and Professional Education. We've served over 17,000 international and domestic students and adult learners. We have multiple relationships with industry and community partners. And we are community and learner centered, meaning we come to you. If you want online learning, hybrid learning, weekends, evenings, we really can work with individual organizations and individuals on providing that. Basically, our services are divided into two categories. There's the corporate training and the open to all, or I call it curiosity learning. The corporate training is on-demand, customized, tailor-made courses for your organization. And often we bring in faculty members from the university in specific departments, relevant departments to your area to develop a set of modules for whatever the topic is. And then we hire instructors to teach it. Oftentimes we can get something off the ground in 2 to 3 weeks, if that's your time frame. So you come to us, you give us a time frame, time of day, and we can help make that happen. Our other type of programming is the curiosity learning, which is really about providing anybody in the community with sort of a set of programs or a set of courses. And what's nice about us is that everything is done in-house. So our registration is in-house. You don't have to go through the registrar's office. Certificate programs are offered, diploma programs are offered. Often many of these classes are eligible for the Canada Ontario Jobs Grant. We're getting into the business of micro-credentialing. Slowly you'll be able to have a digital badge. Apparently this is very popular with the under 30 crowd. So if you are interested in having a digital badge in your digital wallet, soon you will be able to have that from our classes. And like I mentioned, many of our learners come from very diverse backgrounds. We have youth, we have adult, and we have seniors. In some cases, these are simply career transitional courses they're taking to upskill within their current job. We have recent settlers, newcomers, and international learners taking foundational classes on a number of topics, and obviously current UWindsor students, alumni, and recent grads. For example, maybe you are a humanities and arts major, but now realize you'd like to start a business. So we have classes like e-commerce and our mini MBA. So within 3 months, you could walk away with a diploma or a certificate, I should say, in e-commerce or our mini MBA certificate. One of our most popular classes right now, EDI initiatives were mentioned earlier. We have a very popular anti-Black racism course that is either you can take a 3-hour version, the crash course, or an 18-hour version where you get a certificate at the end. This is proving to be extremely popular with employers in the city and within the region. It's all virtual, and we again utilize a syllabus or a course outline developed by professors at the university and graduate students or recent PhDs teaching that course. So that's become really successful and popular for us. And one of the things I wanted to mention to you guys, or at least billboard a little bit, is professional development opportunities that we offer. Many organizations are now looking for PD initiatives for their employees. It could be on a number of different topics. And many times when you're scrolling through other continuing departments elsewhere, there'll be one size fits all. And oftentimes that's not the case with what you may need. And I like to say, if you have a conversation with me, I take down notes about exactly what you're looking for, how long you want it to be, and we can make that work. For example, we recently worked with a client who wanted a bunch of lunch and learns to fulfill certain PD requirements, especially to do with hybrid work environments, how to better work with a hybrid team or a virtual team. So we had these sort of 1 to 2 or 3 hour at the very most modules set up for this. And this could be meant for managers or soon to be managers, those in supervisory roles. So what we're offering are a number of different topics, but more importantly, those topics really should be devised by you, since you have the unique situation, you have the unique question or problem that hopefully we can come in and help to solve that. So I encourage all of you here today, if you ever are thinking about PD initiatives on a number of different topics, let me know, give me a call, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. The main reason I'm here, though, is to talk to you about something that we are investigating and actively sort of researching on developing, and that is a credential assessment service that would be based out of the university within continuing education itself. Some of you may know, obviously we have some IRCC representatives here today, so they will know what a credential assessment service is. And basically, for those that don't know, this, imagine you're a newcomer and you have a bunch of degrees. You have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, and an Ontario employer where you are applying to certain jobs, maybe they're not recognizing those degrees or those qualifications because maybe your diploma is in another language, or you don't have transcripts, or those transcripts are in another language. So there's a lot of obstacles to sort of obtaining of going through that process, basically. And a credential assessment service can help recognize those qualifications, not only for admission to another higher education institution, but also for certifications, or mainly for general employment. And when we started to investigate where those locations were in Canada, we realized that there are 6 active members of what's called the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada. And of those 6, they all adhere to what's called the Pan-Canadian Quality Assurance Framework for the Assessment of International Academic Credentials. And basically, this boils down to 6 service providers in all of Canada where you can get your credentials assessed. Only one you'll see is out of another university, out of U of T, and out of their own continuing studies department. They started theirs in the late 1960s, and I've been having some really good conversations with them within their credentialing service department about basically the steps they took to get it. But you'll notice these other ones, if you look at their locations here, are nowhere close to Windsor and Essex County. You have 2 in Toronto, you have the U of T one, and you have World Education Services. You have one run out of Quebec, which is run by the government of Quebec. You have one in British Columbia, one in Edmonton, Alberta, and one in Guelph, which I guess would be the closest to us. So you can imagine, as a newcomer, you would like a credential assessment. You would like your diplomas or your transcripts to be stamped with some sort of stamp of approval by one of these service providers. But maybe now this requires you to drive more than 2 hours to drop those documents off, potentially leaving those documents there. And so this is obviously an obstacle for some. And we would like to be able to correct that by having a local credential assessment service within the university, utilizing the university's expertise in terms of admissions and dealing with this kind of thing already when they're dealing with admitting new students, international students. So as I mentioned, this is in the earliest of stages. And one of the things that we would love to hear from you about is if you've worked with clients in the past who have needed this service, if you have come across this before, even just hearing from others going, yes, this is something that could really benefit users, clients, individuals that you come into contact with within your own organization, we really would love to hear from you. So what I've developed here is, this is a really big QR code. I am going to put the link for this survey in a chat. So if you use your camera to click this QR code, it'll take you to a survey, which asks basically who you are, like what the organization you represent is, and what elements of this service that you could benefit from or that you know people could benefit from. And what we would also love is even just a letter or quote of support to show that this is something that could really benefit our region. All of this would go into our application. And so basically it's my plea to you to say, if this is something important to you, please let us know either through this survey completion or just getting in touch with me individually, and we can set up a time to chat. if you have questions about this. And as I said, we are in the earliest stages of this. So as we're sort of working our way through the problems, hopefully we can stay in touch, and I can keep you posted on this. So I'm going to put this the link in the chat in case the QR code does not work, but that wraps it up for me. So thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me to take a few minutes to talk to you.
Thank you so very much, Benjamin. What an exciting and important opportunity for our community. And you can see, as is reflected in the chat, the excitement for this. So we will certainly stay in touch as a WeLIP. I'm sure that the We Value Project as well has lots to say about the importance of this. And when we think about the incredible talent that exists in our community and some of those missed opportunities to really access that talent and benefit from that talent in our community because of these kind of systemic roadblocks, this is a really important and valuable piece of work. So thank you, and certainly the WeLIP will stay in touch, and we'll help to build those connections as much as we can to support this important work going forward. So thank you so much, and I think it's a great segue into our next presentation. And we always love it when academia and community can meet. So we're really thrilled to welcome Aisha Badi from Trent University to speak about the Internationally Educated Nurses Program. So over to you, Aisha. Welcome, and we're so glad you could be here.
Thank you. So I'm just going to quickly pop the website URL in the chat, and I'm just going to go through that website. So I'll start by sharing my screen. Okay, is everyone able to see it? Okay. All right, so I'm the program manager for the Ontario Internationally Educated Nurses Course Consortium Competency Bridging Program of Study. So that's a mouthful. Basically, what we've designed this program to do is to help internationally educated nurses become registered nurses in Canada. And what we're specifically designed to do is help them meet their nursing education requirement, their evidence of recent practice requirement, and to become eligible to write the NCLEX RN. So I'm just going to take you through, and our program covers all entry to practice competencies. So I'll quickly just take you through our schedule. This will be changing. We may be taking in more students in January. So this is our latest schedule, but that could change. But we do an orientation module, and then we cover all of the entry to practice courses, and all of them are online. They're theory courses, but they're supported by in-person simulation labs. So we have a few sim lab courses here. So they'll be doing that in person, most likely in the GTA at the George Brown College Waterfront campus. And the other in-person components are the clinical placements. So currently we have 2 clinical placements. One is a group clinical placement, and that's the first clinical course. And then the second is a preceptored clinical placement, and that's part of the second clinical course. And those placements can be across Ontario. So when it comes to the group clinical placements, we base it on where majority of the students are located, or we need to have at least one group in a certain area. So in the past, we've had enough students in Ottawa, for instance, where we could do a group in Ottawa, or if we had enough students in the Windsor region, then we could do a group in a Windsor hospital. So I'm going to take you to sort of our eligibility criteria. So who's eligible to apply? So, and all the applicants must have a letter from the College of Nurses of Ontario, which lists their competency gaps. So that tells us which courses they need to take, because they're only required to take the courses they need to based on their gap letters. They must have an open application with the College of Nurses of Ontario. They need to have proof of authorization to work. So that could be Canadian citizenship, permanent residence, or authorization to practice nursing in Ontario. They must be residents of Ontario because we are funded by the government of Ontario. They need to provide proof of English language proficiency. They will need access to computer and internet, since most of our all of our theory courses are online. And they also need to be able to meet the time commitments of the program. So in terms of which specific documents we're looking for, they could go to the how to apply page for that. So this lists the types of like proof of authorization of work that we would accept. So we do accept work permits and study permits as well. And then it lists the types of proof of Ontario residency, and then the types of proof of English language proficiency. So what we require for proof of English language proficiency is exactly the same as what the regulatory body requires. So the College of Nurses of Ontario. So this is a chart that walks them through, you know, what the options are in terms of applying, and then the minimum test scores that we accept, because if they don't have any other type of proof, they can apply with a language test, and we accept these 2 tests. And a bit about us, I would say, so maybe I'll just end. I'm just trying to be mindful of the time and leave some time for questions. So about us, there's 4 universities involved in this consortium. So it's Trent University, there's University of Windsor, there's Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University, and York University. So there's representatives from each of the 4 universities on the working group that sort of guides the direction of this program. And students are registered across the 4 universities. So once they come into the program, they're evenly distributed across the 4 universities. And so I just wanted to note that it's not just a Trent program. There's other programs that are involved, or sorry, other universities that are involved in this program as well. And we've been around for a number of years now. We've had a number of different grants. So this is actually our sort of 3rd iteration of this program. We're always learning and changing. And then with every new grant, we change things based on lessons learned or what's happening in the sector. So for instance, in 2020, the College of Nurses of Ontario introduced new entry to practice competencies. So we needed to redo our curriculum to align with that. And then based on our funder requirements, so now our funder requires more employment support. So we've had to do that. And based on feedback, we now have a boutique model. Like our previous grant program, the students needed to take everything, but now they just take what they need to based on their competency gaps. So that's that. I think those are some of the main things. So maybe I'll open it up now. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll open it up for any questions. I think I have 5 minutes for questions.
If there are any questions for Aisha, you can use the chat or hand raise feature. And while we're just watching for any questions to come in, can just thank you, Aisha, for this wonderful presentation and for taking a moment to walk through the website and really give us a sense of how accessible that is. I think that's really great. Michelle.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could speak to the appetite in the Windsor Essex community for this opportunity.
So we have had a few applications. We don't get a lot, like it's not like 50% or majority. We'll have maybe a handful of applicants that apply from Windsor. I think one of the reasons for that is that the simulation labs do take place in the GTA, but we try to make those very accessible where they're only over a weekend. So they're Saturday, Sunday, so they don't need to come in too often. And with the group clinical placements, we haven't had enough students in the Windsor region to do a placement in Windsor, but we do have a partnership with the hospital in Windsor. So we would be able to do it if we had enough students. And even for the simulation labs, if we had enough students, we could move it over, but we've only been getting about a handful every year.
And do those students end up participating, that handful, or do they find that that's the barrier and then they don't participate?
Yeah, we do have some students that are registered that are from Windsor, and then they make arrangements for themselves to like travel to Toronto. So we have had graduates that are from Windsor, and we have like a good success rate with our graduates. Most of them become registered nurses quite quickly. So I think for our first cohort, we had 33 and about 31 of them are now like employed registered nurses. And we've had like a number of cohorts from our different grants, and we're noticing that they are passing majority of them are passing the NCLEX, are becoming registered nurses, are finding employment. So since we've been doing this for a number of years, we have some of those outcome measures.
Well, great. Now that you've had an opportunity to share this information with our council, I'm sure that everybody is more than willing to share this information with those that would be eligible for the program and increase that enrollment so we can get some local learning going on too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, please feel free to refer anyone that you think is eligible to our website. So whenever there's updated information, it will be posted there. So if we do accept students in the winter semester, then there'll be information on our website. So they can apply at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aisha. And thank you for that really important question, Michelle. And sometimes I think there are opportunities that are missed just because maybe members of our community don't know. So again, that's where we can really come together to get the word out there. So if there are no other questions for Aisha, we will give you our thanks, and thank you for taking the time to be with us and to share about this important program and for all of your important work. And let's fill up the Windsor contingent and get some folks from Windsor into this great opportunity. Thank you very much, Aisha.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me today.
All right. So next up is, of course, a presentation by myself and my colleagues. And I'm going to kind of kick off the presentation and then turn it over to Derek and to Hugo. And I just wanted to start with a little bit of a personal reflection. For many of you on the screen that I've gotten to know over the years in the community, for many of you, you may have gotten to know me through my CAS role, but prior to CAS, I actually worked in the building for the Child Abuse Prevention Council, and got this really unique opportunity to see the work that went on at CAS. But to still be a separate and autonomous part of a separate and autonomous agency. And after a couple of years of being in the building and working alongside the fine folks at CAS, we had an opportunity to come on board. And I remember when that opportunity was presented, and there was some real excitement around the synergies and certainly an increase in resources for us as a really tiny nonprofit. But I also remember having that moment, that cause for hesitation. While I knew that the work that CAS did was vitally important and absolutely necessary in our community, and I'd come to know how skilled and dedicated and hardworking and caring the staff were, how incredibly generous they were in going above and beyond. I got to hear some of those success stories that we never get to share. That was also positive. There was also a little bit of a shadow in terms of that history of CAS, in terms of that legacy, and in terms of some of those more oppressive outcomes that we have to reconcile within our history. And so at that time, after some reflection, I decided for myself that I could see that our agency was trying to do things really differently, and it was an opportunity to be part of the change. And so over the next few years, certainly as an agency, as a sector, as a community, we've really begun to journey and really think deeply to understand what this means for us and for the services we deliver. And one of the things that we've had to come as a child welfare sector to recognize is that while we set out to provide the very best service to all children and families, by virtue of your membership in certain communities or identity groups, you're more likely to be called upon. You're more likely to receive a call from child welfare. You're more likely to be engaged in child welfare services and potentially to have poorer outcomes. And so those identity groups, of course, Indigenous, Black communities, LGBTQ+ communities, folks living in poverty. So that's a really painful truth, particularly for people who work so hard and care so much. So it really has been a call for us to embark on this journey in a new way. And so just a year shy or more prior to the pandemic, we were really fortunate to gain new leadership in our executive director, Derek Drouillard, who's really embraced this truth and really centered this in terms of our focus going forward. So today, I'm really honored and pleased that he is here with us. And not only has he really embraced equity, he has built our equity team and our equity department in the form of myself, my colleague Dorcas Yaboa, who is a One Vision, One Voice specialist working with Black communities, and of course, someone who is no stranger to the WELIP, the former chair of the WELIP, Hugo Vega, who is now our director of equity, inclusion, diversity, and inclusion. So we're really fortunate to have these visionary leaders to lead this work, and really pleased to share a little bit about our journey and our strategic planning process. So I'm going to turn it over to them at this time and welcome them to provide that.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you for the invitation to be here today and speak on our journey and where we are with our strategic plan. Before I start with that, however, I would like to provide an endorsement, and if I were online, I would do a review of the course that Benjamin spoke of earlier. I have recently taken the fundamental race and anti-Black racism course at the University of Windsor continuing education program, and so it was a great course, and of course learned quite a bit from that, and it's taken those learnings, and a number of my staff have also participated and will continue to do so as a signal to our commitment towards our journey and learning around how to center our practices in a way that is equitable, and through cultural humility, learn from the communities about what is the best way to deliver on a service that sometimes is seen as and has a history and a legacy that Charlotte eloquently spoke of, where we have been part of the problem and not part of the solution. And so as we continue to look forward and build, we're building in some of our planning so that we're intentionally disrupting and dismantling some of those practices, and also in the community, hopefully working as good partners with all of you and others to ensure we're doing our part to be allies and transformationally change our service delivery and support those in the community that need us. And so we started this journey of creating a strategic plan, and my role today is will be brief and just give you a bit of sense of motivation and why we decided to go down this path and where we're hoping to end up. I see strategic planning as more strategic agility, to be honest. We work in such a fast-paced environment, and things are ever changing. And as organizations, we really need to be responsive and changing to those environments. And so it gives us the opportunity to build on some foundational pillars, but also be agile in our operational plan that you'll hear more about from Hugo. I see that plan as iterative and moving and organic in nature, because we'll continue to receive feedback from a number of priority groups that will tell us, look, you didn't hear us. You didn't get this right. We need you to see changes here, or something will happen in the community that will that will give us pause and then need to regroup and reassess where we're at. So you see on the screen the sort of overarching plan, and this is the pillars of strategic planning that we chose. Within those, then we've created an operational plan to better define, measure the metrics, evaluate, hold ourselves accountable, and have the community and those groups that we've included as our priority groups for the next 3 years to hold us accountable to. So where we started with this back when we were considering a new strategic plan in 2020 and 2021, of course, the pandemic hit, and that kind of changed a lot of things for us, and up into including, of course, what was happening in the social context, both in Canada and across the border. And many of you, all of you will know, and I don't have to remind you of the death of George Floyd, and that really did provide a renewed spark. Of course, George Floyd's death wasn't the first of this kind, but it was in a moment in time where I feel like for child welfare, at least, it was pivotal in anchoring us to be better, do better, and act better. And so when we started looking at this strategic planning process, it became really apparent to us that we needed to focus in on a number of key priority areas and decide what is our what are our philosophical visionary ways we want to move forward, but then operationalize that. And so you see on the screen, we will build trust, and that's to promote and integrate equity into our service delivery. Building trust, we're not naive. That is a long journey. That is a journey that is done in steps. And then unfortunately, and this will happen, missteps that we need to not start from scratch, but start from experience and then not repeat those missteps, and certainly recognize the history. We will follow, and that is really listening and having the families guide. They should be the architects of their own intervention. Enough of being a child welfare sector that leads by agents of authority and more as helping to be facilitators of change. And families have the strengths internally and with their support networks. We have to do a better job of helping to support those strengths and help families move along. It's a bit of a myth, I think, that we are here because the majority of our work is children in care. 90% of the children we serve are living with their families in their communities. And we've seen a significant drop of children in care. We shouldn't be corporate parents. That should be relied upon for the communities to take care of their own children. And when we start to unpack things like disproportionality and overrepresentation, and we can see clearly, our data is very clearly telling us about the overrepresentation and disproportionality of especially Indigenous and Black children coming into contact with child welfare and coming into care, and other racialized communities, equity-seeking communities. So we need to simplify some of what we're doing because we are a complex system. If you wanted to create a system that was so difficult and complex, you could use child welfare as your template on how to do that. And that starts with us internally. And of course, the responsibility shared with our ministry around how do you create a child protection program that is less cumbersome, that is simplified, that supports families in a better way. And of course, our ever moving learning and how we work and listen to families through empathy, through thoughtfulness, through cultural humility, the way that we want to do our work. And so we set those as the pillars of things that we want to do in terms of reimagining and changing our service delivery model. And so the next slide gives you a bit of sense of what's happening in the sector. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Where we've, as a sector, so we belong to the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies. All the Children's Aid Societies across the province of Ontario are members of this organization. And within the OACAS, they started to do some work over the years around some really key priority groups, such as our commitments through Truth and Reconciliation and our Indigenous commitments, working with the Black communities and creating a program called One Vision, One Voice, which Charlotte referenced, and also the work done with understanding the data better with our LGBTQS+ community. So those were within our sector. We're a participant in there. And then the other thing that aligns is with the strategic plan created by our member agency leads. And then finally, alignment with the ministry. The ministry is undergoing a clear child welfare redesign in terms of how to improve our service. But really, the real motivation is the direct service to families and communities. The real motivation is when we created consultation groups with all of those priority groups, and we asked them to tell us, like, what are we doing that's not right? What do you want to see from your local Children's Aid Society? What are some of the things that we've had, notwithstanding the historical context, but what are some of the things we keep messing up now? And how do we get better with that? And so in partnering with a number of those key stakeholders, they provided us with a really good framework about how to move forward. And we know, again, that's a bit of a moving framework because we have to hone and address things that come up in real time. In addition, keep ourselves accountable to the things we need to work on. So we were quite excited. We've done a number of partnerships with a number of groups in our priority areas to better service and provide support. And, you know, I probably got about, so maybe 8 years left of energy left to continue on in this role. And so I know that the transformational change we're trying to establish in the way that we're trying to work in a better way, to be better, to do better, to act better, won't all be done when I deplane from my career plane when it lands. But we're hoping to create a pathway forward that for the next generations will strengthen the communities. We don't need to tell Indigenous communities how to raise their children, or that their children should come into white foster homes. We don't need to be dictating to the Black communities about their ways of being in their culture and their way of coming together as communities and their beliefs. We don't need to be doing those things. What we need to be doing is being an ally and supporting the initiatives. And so that has been the start of our journey, I would say, in terms of creating this strategic plan and where we're hoping to move forward on. Huge undertaking. I check all the boxes of white privileged male and all of the other privileges that come with that. And so it's my responsibility and my obligation then to lead an organization with my colleagues and with my staff and with the community to be the best version of that we can be for ourselves. And we've made mistakes, and I was reminded of a couple this week. And so I can't model perfection for anybody because I've not achieved it and I won't. But what we can do is keep moving forward. And I had an elder at one of the communities say to me, if it took you 250 years, Derek, to walk through the forest, it'll take you 250 to walk out and make some changes. And so we've got to keep moving forward. I invite members of this committee and others, if you see here something that you feel is offside and how we're operating, or if you have some great ideas for us to implement and do some things, we're open for business. We're open to hear from folks and to make the changes we need to make. So I have great staff here who are motivated to move forward. We have a lot of barriers in terms of our own, and the ministry recognizes this. You have standards and you have some things in your legislation that are actual barriers for us trying to implement the kind of systemic redesign that we want to make. So we need your partnership to be able to help to do that and move forward. Some of the tools and some of the assessment tools that we use are not appropriate for a number of communities and go through a very colonialized white lens, and we need to change those. Those are the things embedded in our standards that we're required to use, and we can't continue to use them knowing what we know, and so we need the redesign from the ministry as well, who are partners in this. So I'll stop there because I could ramble on. They call me Chippy Chappy at work, and I didn't know that about myself until people started to point it out to me, and hand it over to Hugo to discuss the next step. So thanks for your time and attention.
Great, thanks, Derek. Yeah, that's a very important context for us in the current point in time with child welfare. The whole of the sector is looking to redesign itself, and in recognition of that historical. The historical reality, the historical impact it's had on communities, especially those that have been historically oppressed and marginalized. So it is good that the ministry, our umbrella organization, and as an agency locally, we understand that reality and the need to change and transform. The how is really the challenge here, and recognizing how long of a road that is for us to really change a whole system. So I'm just going to touch really briefly on a few things that I think are important for us to share with our community. If we can go to the next slide. Again, this is just speaks to where the ministry is at as far as the priorities and changing it. They themselves are centering the need to address the gross overrepresentation and disproportionality of Indigenous communities, Black communities, and queer and trans communities, as well as racialized communities within child welfare. Next slide, please. So as Derek said, there's lots of work done to create a strategic plan to center the the four sort of pillars that Derek talked about. As far as priority groups, we are really centering youth, Black African, Caribbean, Canadian communities, our First Nation, Inuit, Métis, our LGBTQ+, communities, and of course, we need to prioritize our leadership, our staff, and our volunteers to be able to equip them and have them also be on their journey to understand how they, they and all of us as individuals play a part in, unfortunately, reinforcing a lot of the colonial realities of that legacy through our work, definitely within child welfare, but just in general in society. So being able to prioritize the ability to understand how those things interact is critical for us. Each one of these priority groups has clear goals and outcomes that we're built into our strategic plan so that we can track the progress and keep ourselves accountable to that. Next slide, please. High-level outcomes overall for the operational plan. We really want to center and focus equity into everything we do. That is much harder than that sounds. Equity is much broader than what we tend to think about equity. Can't get into all the details of that, but I think a lot of folks on this call understand that. We really want to focus on prevention and early intervention as a system that's really downstream as far as other systems. This isn't sort of our strength, but we need to be able to build into this and be part of the community efforts to be able to bring this to fruition as a whole. I think most of us are familiar with collective impact in the social determinants of health, understanding the interconnectedness of all of our collective work. So this is kind of how we want to be able to build into that and integrate better into the community. We want to center, as Derek said, children, youth, and families as experts in themselves. That's a strength. That's a true strength-based, asset-based approach that we want to make sure is part of the work that we do, and that we're living that out in all of our work. Meaningful partnerships and collaborations, and accountability and sustainability at multiple levels are desired outcomes for a strategic plan. Next slide, please. One more. So as Derek plainly put it, this is the challenge. It's complete cultural, organizational, and systemic transformation, and that's no easy task. It's daunting because we have to be changing a system while the system is operating in its old way. You can't just hit pause, dismantle, or rebuild or redesign something to be completely different than what it was initially intended to do, or how it intentionally or originally functioned. You have to do that on the go, and that's really challenging. I know a lot of us have seen, like on the left here, images that kind of speak to equity, equity as as far as what that sort of means. But the reality, as far as the actual work to operationalize a transformation like this, is more than just recognizing, as an example here, that we need to create or design bikes that are unique to different needs. That sounds easy and simple until you kind of look and realize that every component of that what goes into that bike, and that's just one example, is incredibly intricate and complicated, and you have to be able to understand the interconnectedness of all of that. So the challenge is much greater than we often, I think, allude to it in practice. Next slide, please. So part of the complexity of that are these two components. We are one system among many that interact with the families that we're supporting. We need to recognize our role in the community and better integrate around shared outcomes, shared strategies, and come closer together to be able to work in a way that actually impacts our community and those families, not just from our perspective, but collectively. That's incredibly difficult, but part of the task. At an individual level, both from the community members that we're supporting through our services, but also our staff. We have immense diversity and intersectionality within our agency, within our community, and we can't undermine how complex that is when we're trying to get people to pull in the same direction, and then organizations and our society as a whole. So we understand our place in a much bigger context than just our own internal system. And it's really important to be honest and open about the challenges that we're facing in the complexities that we have to consider in that. Next slide. So we did, we won't share the details at this point of the operational plan for the sake of the presentation, but very clearly, and actually, can you click two more times on this? 1, 2, beautiful. So we just want to make sure that all of our staff are fully aware of how their day-to-day actions impact and connect to these bigger strategies that we're talking about. So every department in the agency had input into their own goals and their connections to the strategic plan in building this year's operational plan. Everything that we do has a connection to outcomes, to focus, and to priority, a direct output, key actions, more at a granular level, timelines and contributors, and all of that for each staff across the entire agency gives clear direction to how their work is directly connected to the strategic plan pillars and priorities, and builds in leadership accountability and collaboration. We're a big system and a big agency. I'm learning that very quickly here. And by default, there's a lot of silos. Just again, the nature of how the system was structured. So we need to kind of work on that internally. So there's lots of focus on some of those efficiencies inward as well. So the link, there is a link there that when this is shared afterwards, you can take a look at the full operational plan. At this point, it is down. We're just trying to make some updates and it'll come back up in a few days or so. Next slide. So the real challenge here is really the how. We always sort of think of equity as this kind of quick little, step from let's just be more thoughtful about how we do things and somehow we'll get there. And it's actually a lot harder than that. So next slide, please. So I really believe in process and principles that need to lead us there. Drawing on community expertise and other examples like Prosper Us, collective impact is really big, both within again, the role that we play within the community, but also internally. I think this lends itself well to how we understand the work within our different areas of the system, and we need to work better closer together internally while we also work closer together with our community partners in the bigger system. Next, please. Principles like user-centered design, which I think most people here know and understand, but the more that we can implement these processes, the more equitable we can become in the actions that we take. Next, I'm just mindful of the time, so I'm powering through here. Derek did sort of quickly mention some of the work that's been done internally within our sector. The Indigenous, Black, and our queer and trans communities have put together these frameworks. These are experts and people with lived experiences across the province that have built the roadmaps essentially to tell us how child welfare can become more equitable. So it's key for us to work with these frameworks, and this is a key part of the work we're doing internally to adopt these action plans, these frameworks through and through, because that is the roadmap. So grateful for the resilience and for the work that our communities have done, and it's up to us now to be able to operationalize. So community-led anti-racism, decolonizing and affirming strategies and frameworks are key for us to be able to adopt internally to do this work well. All of that, and this is something that is we're aspiring to in the next few months, is to really engage our community partners. And WECAS has had some really great partnerships with community. This is more about adapting them a little bit to be able to be a strong and meaningful voice in helping bridge the operational plan at the center there with our strategic plan, again, leading us and being true partners in this work so that we are in lockstep with our communities and their frameworks and their need of us to respond meaningfully through this. I can't go into a whole lot of detail on this. We talk about colonial systems and hierarchical structures and how those can lend themselves to reinforce that colonial legacy. But if we can go to the next slide. I think we need to start somewhere, and even just changing the culture of how we make decisions is really important. Traditionally, it's top down, not to minimize the importance of the people and the skill sets that those mid-level to higher level managers have to play in an organization. But I think it's really important to be able to value more the frontline staff and also our community. Again, the same principles to be able to work together and make sure that they're giving us the answers as to how to move forward in a meaningful way. High-level outcomes as far as indicators of success as a child welfare agency. We want to see a reduction in the overrepresentation of our Black, Indigenous, and queer and trans communities, which again, as Derek has mentioned, there's gross overrepresentation currently. We want to reduce children and youth in CAS care We want increased children and youth placed in kin service homes. We want to reduce cases currently before the courts. And we want to reduce children, youth placed in OPR, foster and OPR group care, and reductions in supervised access. Sort of inside baseball sort of outcomes within child welfare. But these are things that are really important for us to stay accountable to. Recognizing that this is, transformational in nature, we need to recognize this is easily a 5 to 10 year strategy just to kind of begin to turn that corner. The dream is that long-term generational change that changes the reality for those marginalized communities when interacting with our systems. And when I say that, I think it's more than just child welfare, but they're definitely taking ownership of our responsibility in that. And if we can take a couple more minutes, and I'm really sorry, we're kind of way over time here. If we can go to the next slide. One key thing that, we want to take advantage of this phenomenal group of people on the call. We have really practical needs right now that we want to bring forward to you as leaders in the community. Specifically is needs within recruiting more volunteers, more people to support with relief homes, foster parents, adoption. The pandemic, in short, has had a massive impact in the reduction of volunteers in these areas. And because of the focus on becoming more diverse and more culturally responsive to the needs of the children that we are supporting and children and families that we're supporting, we need more help with this. So we have Tina here, who is a member of the LIP, who is going to speak really briefly just about that specific ask.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Hugo. Just really quickly, we have our pillar programs of the Children's Aid Society, which have been running for a long time. We have our tutoring, mentor program, our volunteer transportation program, and other ways to get involved with our fundraising and special events. But I think this is a good time for us to also reach out to our diverse communities and really have a conversation about how we can better partner in providing more equitable support. So that might look like completely different things that we've never considered in a volunteer way. Again, it's all really with the goal of better supporting the children and families that we serve, many of which we work mutually with. And so just opening that conversation about how we can do some potentially new opportunities and invite more participation. So that's where we're at. So if anyone has any further questions or ideas about contributing to our organization in a volunteer way, please reach out to me. Thanks.
Well, that's it for us. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Derek. And thank you to our community. Thank you for walking this journey alongside us. None of us are on this journey by ourselves. None of us do our work in a vacuum. And I think that's something we as a We LIP collective are really mindful of. And it's something we as an agency are really increasingly mindful of. So hold us accountable, connect with us, and really we invite you to walk this journey with us. And so thank you to all of my colleagues for your presentations. Touches my heart. I feel emotional, and but I also feel there's a lot of work to be done, but you know, I'm proud of us. So Beth Ann, comment, question?
Thank you, Charlotte. Just a comment. Derek, Hugo, Tina, all of you there behind the scenes, your board of directors. I have a visceral reaction that has been happening since you've all been speaking. And in trying to define it, it really is inspirational, as I am so happy to hear that you have left the starting line, yourselves and OACAS. You have left the starting line. This is an aspirational, monumental task, but it has to be aspirational. Hopefully, in 5 years from now, we spend a lot of time calculating data. And our data is supposed to tell a story. Hopefully in 5 years from now, when you all assemble for your annual general meeting, your data story will begin to talk about this transformation. One of the things that I saw very quickly on one of your slides there, Hugo, was that you have an end goal of enabling and allowing families collaboratively to create their families of choice. It will be interesting to see in your data story if, in fact, there has been a reduction in the use of non-Black, queer, trans, Indigenous, and other racialized communities, foster homes, that there has been greater use of kinship homes within their own communities, and so on and so forth. So I really look forward to that. And as I say, I'm so glad that you have all collectively, and our Ontario Association has collectively already left the starting line. You have our full support.
Thank you so much for that, Beth Ann, for those kind and heartfelt words. And yeah, that's worth a heart for sure. As a fan of the heart emoji, thank you. And I hope you're right, Beth Ann. I really hope that the story, the data is only as important as the story it tells, and I hope our story is going to change. And we know that in order to do that, we need to continue to build that trust. So thank you for that. And if there are no other comments or questions, with great thanks, we will move on and switch gears completely here and turn things over to Monica, who is, of course, a project coordinator for the LIP, to speak a little bit about the Afghan refugee attraction and retention tool.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you, everyone. I'm not going to, I just want to share with you all a bit of a resource that we have put. Sorry, I'm just going to stop my video here. At the request of IRCC and in collaboration with the Multicultural Council and the YMCA and the New Canadian Center of Excellence, we were asked to help put together a resource for Afghan newcomers who are coming to our community or may be coming to our community, to just share with them some information and details about Windsor, Essex County, Leamington, what it's like here, to share a message of welcoming, and give them some details about the area, because I think maybe we're that hidden gem that not a lot of people know about when you land in Toronto, and then the impulse is to just stay in Toronto. So we worked together to produce this resource in the form of a video, and I just want to walk, I'm not going to show it all because it's half an hour, but I want to just show you the elements of it so that when you might have clients or community partners or somebody in your life who you think might benefit from this resource, I want you to have it available to you. So we have welcome messages in it. We have a welcome message from the mayor in English. A part of this resource is, the goal was to have it in English and in Farsi, so it's in first language. So the mayor shares a welcome message. Then our good partner Zakia Zarabi at the YMCA, it walks you through sort of the settlement process. If you're coming, what you can expect coming to Windsor, Essex. And the slides are in English, but she delivers it in Farsi so that you can get the information in both languages. After that, MCC has a nice little story from the Frotan family, an Afghan journalist who settled with his family in the Windsor area, sharing what their experiences and their story as newcomers. This is also in Farsi with the, you can see the transcript at the bottom. Then the Imam Mohammed Al-Jamali from the Windsor Islamic Association delivers a little message of welcome in English. There's the New Canadian Center of Excellence video sort of emphasizing, you know, why Windsor Essex works, and gives a lot of detail about industry and climate and community. Mayor Hilda McDonald from Leamington shares a welcome message as well. And then NCCE put together some details about the Leamington area for interested newcomers to settle. This again has the slides are in English, but it is also delivered in Farsi. So you get the information in 2 languages. And just at the end, we have Latifa and Ahmad Irshad share their story. So again, this is in Farsi. Latifa and her husband have been here for 20 years, immigrants from Afghanistan, and they shared their story about what it's been like living in Windsor, Essex, raising their family, raising their kids, going to school, and just sharing their experience. So this resource is available on the Workforce Windsor Essex website, YouTube channel, sorry. And I'm going to put it in the chat so that anybody who might need it has it available to them. And I just want to thank all the partners, MCC and NCCE and the YMCA, for coming together on this to build this resource. And I hope it gets a lot of use and you find it valuable in your work. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Monica. And you're getting some applauses there, and particularly from people who know behind the scenes how much work it was to put this together and how quickly it came together. So thank you for your leadership, and to everybody that came together so quickly. It's a huge job to put something like this together, and it was really well done and mobilized really quickly. So what a great testament to what a great community Windsor is. So thank you. Next up, moving right along, we have Audrey Lugutera from the Substance Abuse Program for African and Caribbean Canadian Youth. And we're going to welcome Audrey to share about this very important program.
So Audrey's taking a little bit, oh, there she is, perfect.
Oh, we see Audrey's just reconnecting to your audio. Welcome. You folks have the floor, so take it away.
Sorry about that. Had some issues there. Hi, everyone. So we are going to be presenting on the SAPAC program. I don't know, do we have the controls to present? Perfect. All right, so we're gonna start. So once again, hello everyone. Sorry about the initial internet issue, but we thank you so much for this opportunity to speak on this amazing program. My name is Audrey, and I'm joined by my colleagues Markayla and Marlo to talk about this amazing new program that we have the honor of being a part of. And that program is called SAPC, which stands for the Substance Abuse Program for African, Caribbean, and Black Canadian Youth. I'm going to pass it on to Marlo now to do a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Audrey. I know that we did a land acknowledgement, but I think it's very important that we do so again on our behalf. So we here at WCHC recognize that our work of the Alliance of Healthier Communities and Alliance members takes place across what is now called Ontario, on traditional territories of the Indigenous people who have lived here since the immemorial and have a deep connection to these lands. We further acknowledge that Ontario is covered by 46 treaties, agreements, and land purchases, as well as unceded territories. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, meet, and work in this territory. Ontario continues to be home to vibrant, diverse Indigenous communities who have distinct and specific histories and needs, as well as constitutionally protected and treaty rights. We honor this diversity and respect the knowledge, leadership, and governance frameworks within Indigenous communities. In recognition of this, we commit to building allyship relationships with First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people in order to enhance our knowledge and appreciation of many histories and voices within Ontario. We also commit to sharing and upholding responsibilities to all who now live on these lands, the land itself, and the resources that make our lives possible. So yes, at WeCHC, we do have 6 locations in which we do operate out of. The SAPC program is operating out of the Teen Health location currently at 1361 Ouellette Avenue, Unit 101. We also have the Diabetes Wellness Center on Lausanne Parkway, Street Health, which is at Pelisher Street, the Sandwich location on College Avenue, our Leamington site on Princess Avenue, and the Pickwick site, which is also on Tecumseh Road as well. The multidisciplinary team consists of a wide range of services that range from nurse practitioners, physicians, all the way up until occupational therapists. We also have health promoters and social workers as well.
When discussing our services, we do offer medical, mental health, chronic disease, and health promotion. With us, we also provide services with foot care, respiratory therapy, hepatitis C, eating disorder and support, as well as addiction and substance use disorder support. For counseling with our social workers, we do service and address depression, anxiety, family conflicts, relationships and grief, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts and substance usage. If you have any questions or are looking for more information, please do visit our website at www.wechc.org. And if you're willing to become a volunteer, please call us at 519-258-6002 and ask about our volunteer program and how you can be involved within the community.
So that was about WeCHC as a clinic, but what is SAPC, one may ask, and that's a very good question. It's a very, very new program in Windsor here, but it was established in the early 1990s as a community strength-based response to the mental health substance use crisis facing Black youth and their families who did not have access to culturally safe services. We also want to put here a disclaimer that the acronym SAPC could be a bit misleading. We do not only focus on substance abuse, but we address a myriad of mild to moderate mental health concerns and just promote mental wellness in the Black community. So SAPC promotes improved mental wellness for young Black people who identify as African, Caribbean, and/or Black. So we also want to emphasize here that we service young people, youth between the ages of 12 to 29 who identify as Black. We provide community-based mental health and substance use services that are holistic, anti-oppressive, Afrocentric, and culturally safe for Black youth and their families and caregivers. So that also includes psychoeducation and group therapy and so on and so forth. And again, our age range is 12 to 29. Next, we're going to talk about the SAPC sites. So there are other SAPC sites in Ontario. So if you know anybody who can benefit from these services in any one of these areas, Toronto, of course, Windsor, Ottawa, Scarborough, Etobicoke, North York, Peel, or Hamilton, please let us know and we can refer you there as well. And this is just a little bit about us. We have our director and manager, Nadine Monroe-Wakerow. We have our clinical supervisor, Sabrina Puente. You have myself, one of the SAPC clinical social workers, alongside my colleague, Markela. And then last but not least, we have Marlo, who is our case manager.
So a little bit more of what we do, and thank you, Audrey. So as Audrey stated, SAPC does provide an Afrocentric, youth-focused, and non-judgmental anti-oppressive lens to our services. So we do provide counseling services to youth from age 12 to 29, and this can be individual, group therapy, or even psychoeducation presentations to the parents. When Audrey was speaking about mild to moderate, so this is done case-by-case basis, and once our potential clients meet Marlo, assessment will be done to see if we're able to meet their needs here or we have to outsource to our partners organizations. With this in mind, we do address anxiety, depression, and none of our clients have to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist with let's say anxiety or depression, but if they're experiencing feelings of depression or feelings of anxiety or just having life stressors, SAPC is there and we're able to provide counseling services with this. And we do not have a limit for our sessions. It all depends on the goals of our clients, if they're met, or if the service provider and the client is able to mutually agree that services are no longer needed.
Yeah, so we'll just tap into like a little bit more about why this program is very necessary. So based on a 2018 study, a little over 38% of Black Canadians with mental health issues used mental health services between the years of 2001 and 2014, compared to over 50% of white Canadians. Of those Black Canadians, 60% said that they would be more willing to use mental health services if the mental health provider was Black. A bit over 95% of those said Black people felt that they were underutilized with the mental health services by Black Canadian residents. Some other barriers to care include the historically of the Black community has been placed at a disadvantage when it comes to their mental health, given the subjection to trauma through enslavement, oppression, colonialism, racism, and segregation, much of which extends to the experience of mental health care inequity today. Some of these barriers to care include the lack of representation. Through Black people, it can be a bit difficult to build some trust if the help seeker does not believe that the health professional can relate to their experience or understand their point of view. From the deep-rooted impacts of anti-Black racism to intergenerational trauma and cultural biases, sharing common ground facilitates a connection building between that patient and the care provider. Unfortunately, simply finding a Black mental health professional in North America can be a bit challenging, let alone one from the same cultural background.
Some common myths regarding mental health within the Black community that we conclude after doing our outreaching is that mental health problems can get better on their own, which we know is not the truth, especially when you're fighting your own inner demons, as well as ongoing mental health or emotional challenges are just inherent and part of the Black experience. Other barriers to care that we have been addressing is stigma and code switching within our community.
Thank you, Marla and Markila. Before I go into how to refer, I just want to ask a rhetorical question here and ask each and every one of us here how, up until now or in the past, how have we been servicing and meeting the needs of Black youth in our community thus far, right? And so moving forward, we just want to talk about referral process. So youth may self-refer or be referred by health and or social service professionals. And at the teen health locations specifically, referrals are received by the receptionist at the front. And once a referral is received, a SAPC staff member, which will most likely be Marlo, will contact the individual to assess their needs and see how best he can support them. This is also to eliminate all the hoops and loops that people often have to jump through just to speak to a mental health professional. So when making an external referral to teen health, there's an option to select which program to refer the client to. And this is where you can select the SAPC program if you believe that it's a good fit. So at this time, we want to ask anybody here if they have any questions. This is a very new program, so we understand that there is questions. We're still in the very formulative foundational stages, or if you have any concerns, comments, or whatever the case is. I see Mary, your hand is up.
Great presentation. This might just be me. What does code switching mean? I think I saw that on the last slide. Yeah.
So I can speak on that. So code switching just refers to when we're speaking to Black youth entering different spaces, usually they will retain or hide certain information and use, let's say, different language to express what they're really living. So it's taking away their lived experience by trying to find better words or terminologies that their provider who never lived in their shoes or doesn't really have an intersectional point of view will understand. So code switching is just that daily language switching to saying, well, I did this, but really this is the word that I should be using to really represent my experience.
Great, thanks very much.
That can translate in how you show up in a space, tone of voice, pitch of voice, kind of sometimes often too, we see Black youth kind of suppressing their Blackness or their cultural background to fit and feel safe in a space. So that's one way to describe code switching, but we find that that's not only present in mental health services, that's present anywhere that often many Black people find themselves in. So just want to add that piece. Thank you for that question, Mary.
Yeah, thank you for a great question. I feel like, yeah, we could spend days on the depth of that answer. But when you think about mental and emotional wellness and what it means to have to really spend so much mental energy editing yourself to fit into a space as opposed to being able to speak in an authentic voice, right? That the services that you're providing are really incredible and really important. And certainly I know that I'm sure my colleagues and I are making some notes about how we can make sure we're doing a better job of connecting with you and getting our youth into your services and really taking advantage of all that you have to offer. I see Michelle and I see Neela.
Yeah, I just wanted to direct your attention to the chat where Jane from Children First is asking, are there supports for children under 12?
So at this moment with the SAPACY program, there are no supports that we have for children under 12. However, we do provide system navigation and psychoeducation to parents, so that can involve them. But other than the case, we'll refer to any organization that does address children under 12 to get that support that they need.
Great question, thank you. Ela, did you have a question or a comment that you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Audrey, Marlo, and Marcelia. Great presentation. And we service a lot of youth in our organization. I'm just interested to know, so it's referral process, I heard about it, but what about like how many cases do you have wait times currently for children seeing, and what would be the approximate, like, do you have like a month, 2 months, or it's more than 6 months?
To answer that question as well, so currently SAPACY, as Audrey spoke about, and as well as Marlo, is a new program, so we do not have wait times. Do we have clients? Absolutely, we have clients. So right now it's like the best middle part if there is a client that you're interested in to get access or services, because currently there's no wait times and they will be attached or they will be assigned to a provider as soon as possible.
That's excellent. Excellent to hear. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And something else I wanted to add that wasn't in the presentation was that we also have youth volunteer opportunities and employment opportunities for them to be involved in the community, as well as, I think I already mentioned, but psychoeducation for families and parents. So if there are youth in your organizations that want to get involved and be more involved in the community, we have that opportunity here as well as having youth advisors to help curate the space and curate the direction of the program as well, because we really want to service and get to the root of the needs of Black youth in this community. So just want to add that out there, that there's other opportunities outside of just mental health services that Black youth can be involved in within the SAPACY program.
Wonderful.
I see Dorcas has a question, and we do have flyers and things that we are sending out. So if you would like, we can send that to someone here or send it to you directly and provide.
If you send it to the WeLit, we'll make sure we get it out to all of our members, and we will definitely share. So, and I see Dorcas in the chat is my colleague who is our One Vision, One Voice specialist. So I'm sure she's taking lots of notes as well. Thank you so much for this really important and exciting work. So we look forward to, hopefully people will refer and connect with you and really take advantage of these crucial, valuable, important supports. So thank you so much to the team for that great presentation.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next up, we're going to turn things over to Leo Gill to talk about the community safety walks and Public Safety Day. And so over to you, Leo, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. And I believe you should see the full screen now. Perfect. Well, again, good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm happy to walk you through an exciting two-part event planned for Sunday, September 18th in Leamington, known as the Festival of Guest Nations and Public Safety Information Day. I'll describe how this event ties into the Regional Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan and the pilot safety and crime prevention program that has been gaining some pretty amazing momentum in the county so far. So first off, the Sunday event is a partnership between the WELIP, Migrant Worker Community Program, and the RCSWB, so the Regional Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. And as I mentioned before, the event has two parts. The first on the left-hand side here is Public Safety Information Day. And this is really consisting of opportunities for newcomers, migrant workers, and really the broader community in general to connect with service providers and public servants who help support safety and well-being in our entire region. I'll be talking primarily about that section, but I do want to make sure that I also emphasize the second part, Festival of Guest Nations, which is a celebration of the diversity of migrant workers in the community. And it's also a recognition of their sacrifices, their contributions to the community and to the local economy. And with all great festivals and celebrations, this portion of the event consists of great music, food, raffle prizes, and opportunities to share and engage in really a fun and welcoming environment. And so, just to highlight in terms of that aspect of it, you'll see there on the side that it will be held at the Seacliff Amphitheater from 1 to 6 p.m. Now that a bit of the promotion is out of the way there, and I've emphasized is that there will be some amazing food trucks, including Rico Taco. And if you haven't had a Rico Taco, you need to have a Rico Taco. Just bring that up. And there'll also be some great live salsa, merengue, cumbia music, just guaranteed to make you dance and get up. So just want to make sure I do that little bit of promotion there. I'll jump back into the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. And so for context, for those who may be unfamiliar, the RCSWB plan was created in accordance with provincial legislation. This was a provincially mandated project for all municipalities. And this was done in guidance with from area municipalities, sector leadership, and identified priority population groups. We created something called the Enhanced Sector Network that had 8 priority population groups, from Indigenous communities to racialized persons, newcomers, youth, and accessibility communities, among others. The goal of these types of plans was really to reimagine how we address crime and complex social issues by moving towards more preventative and multidisciplinary approaches. And just as a bit of a recap, in late November 2021, the plan was unanimously approved and supported by each municipality. And as of May 8th, 2022, the Ministry of the Solicitor General officially accepted the plan, and we've been moving towards implementation of the plan's priorities, goals, and initiatives ever since. And speaking of that, the plan really identified 4 priority areas, as you'll see up top there, from good governance all the way to financial security and economic equity. And overall consists of 8 goals listed. In addition to that, there are corresponding initiatives and activities, which again were all established through a review of population level data, public consultation, and input from our leadership table, as well as that enhanced sector network that I mentioned beforehand. And that network was of over 100 frontline staff and community leaders from those 8 identified populations. So we'll dive a little bit deeper and say under that engage in safe communities priority area, there was one key initiative that was among several, but one key initiative was developing a pilot safety and crime prevention walks program. And really, this was a recommended activity of the plan, and it was based off of some amazing work that was completed through Windsor Police Service that integrated principles called crime prevention through environmental design. And this was completed with grassroots neighborhood renewal strategies that were funded by the United Way at the time in the downtown core, in Ford City area, in the West End, and in the Glengarry area. And so building off of the knowledge that was gained through this, we found that there was some great opportunities that came from these types of engagement activities. Not only would you be able to kind of engage with an individual, a public official, a law enforcement officer, have a better familiarity in your community. You would also get the opportunity to learn a little bit more of some practical crime prevention strategies that you could use around your own home and within your own neighborhood. And it was helpful for a number of different groups, from residents to business owners to even frontline staff. So in consideration of all of these amazing benefits, we were looking at different opportunities of implementing it as part of the plan. And through different consultations, we found that there was an opportunity to formalize this work and see how we could expand it into county municipalities and with other area police services. And really quickly, before I jump into that piece, I do want to explain a little bit of what crime prevention through environmental design is, because these principles can be, they're just incredibly practical, but they're very helpful in changing the way you view your community and how you could be able to really prevent opportunities for criminal activity by influencing either positively influencing human behavior, or really planning, designing, and ultimately creating spaces that can reduce the potential for those opportunities of criminal activity. You'll see on the image here that these are some key aspects of CPTED in practice. If you're looking at it from a facility standpoint, things like activity generation, as an example. If you have more people in your community, in your neighborhood, at your parks, it leads to more eyes on the street, less opportunities for crime to be occurring. And why it's so important that neighborhood vibrancy is a key aspect of these types of plans. Much like when you're talking about things like natural surveillance, making it so that you can, again, landscaping, even from a resident perspective, can be a huge influence. Sometimes we forget, if we're, it may look nice to have some privacy if you have, a shrub or something that's blocking a window, but when it comes down to it, that leads to an opportunity for people to be hidden in those spaces. In addition to that, lighting and motion sensor lighting, all of these are key ways of, again, reducing opportunities for crime, because the basic assumption here is if there are if there's a low-hanging fruit in terms of the opportunity for crime, that criminal activity may then move forward on that. So we want to be able to prevent those opportunities by, again, designing the space appropriately. And so ultimately, when we're talking about the pilot program itself, we were able to, again, develop a few different pilot areas that were established through consultation with area police services. And we wanted to start in the county first, and then see how we can then, again, re-engage in the city of Windsor. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure that we had opportunities for additional content-specific partnerships for each of those pilot areas, because we know each neighborhood, each community, there are different challenges that they may be facing, and there may be different tools to deal with those challenges. We all are part of the solution, and as such, we want to make sure that we are looking at multiple opportunities to deal with that type of challenge. And so, in addition to that, for these pilot areas, the lessons learned throughout will be used to support the development of a full-blown region-wide program. And so we're excited for some of that as well. Again, when you think of some of these programs, what we found is you have an increased knowledge of for the residents of practical crime prevention methods and really how they can best support safety initiatives in the communities. They also get a chance to know a little bit more about some of the resources that are available in the community, not only from a law enforcement standpoint, but again, from some of those organizations that may be a part of it. In addition to that, there's really information gathering opportunities. Public officials and law enforcement, as well as even by law, for instance, can gain a little bit more insight into some of the challenges that residents see on a daily basis. We want to build off of their experience and their expertise. And then beyond that as well, really having the opportunity to build community trust and rapport. I think across the board, what we hear when we talk about safer neighborhoods or engaged neighborhoods, it doesn't matter if you're in a city or if you're in a small town, being able to feel as though you are known, that you're recognized within your community, you have a space for yourself, there's a sense of belonging. All of those pieces help with making you feel safe in your community. When one of those elements is taken away, again, there leads to challenges, to distrust, and to concerns, right? That's a very oversimplification, but when it comes down to it, that's something that does have a big impact in terms of how you may feel in your community and in your space. So in terms of the pilot areas that we started off with recently, we were working in Essex Center in the town of Essex and Essex Center in Harrow, and we actually have this one in Leamington again on September 18th with more to follow. With respect to the 18th, some of the event details here, again, it will be on Sunday, so the same day as the rest of it. So from 10:30 to 12, I will actually be facilitating the crime prevention, the walk there, the safety and crime prevention walk. We'll be starting at Dieppe Park. The next slide has a photo of the route, but we'll be starting at Dieppe Park and really focusing on the uptown area of Leamington. And we have a number of amazing partners. We have OPP available. We have the municipality, including bylaw, and we have had support through Windsor Police Service, which I need to make sure that I emphasize. If you've never met Barry Horrobin from Windsor Police Services, he's the Director of Planning and Physical Resources. He's brilliant, and he is a leading expert for crime prevention through environmental design, and he's been supporting us with a lot of our materials. In addition to that, we've been working with Crime Stoppers, Youth Diversion, the BIA, the Migrant Worker Community Program, and South Essex Community Council to help us along for that walk. And again, this is the route that we're taking. So just to put it into context, this is not a hike. We're not looking at doing, you know, a 10-mile run. It's about a 650-meter walk. But the reason why we've picked this area is so that we can have some key topics to go to be discussing throughout, have time to pause, have time to ask questions, and engage with residents. And again, all of the different organizations that are available on that walk. And then from there, after that 12 o'clock, you have a bit of time to get to Seacliff Park. And for that Public Safety Information Day, there'll be over 17 partners, including those listed on the slide, that will be providing information at Seacliff Park, in addition to having, again, that music, that food that's available. And this is really a way to provide you know, connections to newcomers and workers, a chance to really get to know the community a bit better and know about the different neighborhood providers, and that's vice versa, right? Have community members be able to engage with the migrant worker population and be able to kind of, again, have more of a welcoming environment and develop a bit of trust and familiarity. And so again, that would be happening from 1 to 6 p.m. at Seacliff Park. So I think that's gone through everything. My information is here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you, Leo. Looks like no questions. Thanks for a great presentation. It's a massive piece of work. And, you know, when we think about what safety looks like, it really is one of those places we have to have that massive equity lens. And I know your project was challenged on that front and really rose to meet the challenge. So, and yes, everybody, you got to try the Rico tacos for sure. But definitely thank you for being so thoughtful and really trying to, you know, you slowed your roll and slowed your process to make sure that it really heard from the voices of community. And that's a huge, huge ask. And so kudos to you and best of luck with the next phases of the project. And hopefully some folks will come out and join the walk and have a taco, dance to the music, and have a good time.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Charlotte.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next up, Michelle, no stranger to this group. We'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what's coming up.
Sure. Thank you, Charlotte. And thank you all for, you know, such an informative meeting. We really do try to make sure that we are making the best use of everyone's time on our meetings, as we have 3 council meetings. Those that are new to the table, to reiterate, we have 3 council meetings a year and an annual forum. And our upcoming meeting, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes, we are going to strive to be an in-person meeting for that one. So looking forward to that. I have a few minutes on the agenda to talk about our upcoming election. It's really hard to believe it's that time of year again. Here we are. But this year we have the opening of a vice chair and also 2 member at-large positions that will be on the ballot. So the process that we will be going through is that you will receive an email detailing that nominations will be open November 1st and that they will close on November 24th. The list of nominees will be released on December 1st so that everyone has a week to review and consider who they will vote for in person at the December council meeting taking place on December 8th. The location of that meeting will be shared closer to the meeting date. And just wondering if anyone has any questions on that before I move on to my second point. Okay, seeing none. And I wanted to just sort of recap around the Public Safety Day. It's been a real pleasure for the WeLip team to pull together the partners around this event. Monica has been spearheading the planning of the event with the partners, and we really hope everyone will take advantage of the day and come out and see each other live and in person. And also, the public safety element to this. It's been a real pleasure to work with Leo Gill with Regional Community Safety and Wellbeing to bring that partner on board and to bring the municipality of Leamington right to the table to be a part of this. So thank you again, Leo, for your support and active participation in planning this day, along with our partners at the Migrant Worker Community Program. And segueing to the Migrant Worker Community Program, I believe Marion Fintetti from Invest Windsor Essex has some kudos to share.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. I just wanted to quickly let everyone know, I was looking to see if Martin was here today, but last evening at the Leamington District Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards banquet, one of the nominees for the Warm Welcome Award was the Migrant Worker Community Program. And this is an award that's sponsored by the Point Pelee National Park. And out of in that category, out of 3 nominees, the Migrant Worker Community Program, Martin and his team were recognized, and they won the Warm Welcome Award. And I thought, how fitting through a number of areas. Number one, timing is everything, because this weekend is the big Carousel of Guest Nations. And also, the room had just the right people who needed to hear and see that in the room. Perfect cross-section of stakeholders. And I think it really heightened some awareness about the great work that Martin and his team does. And there was a small video that was also presented. And I think it also demonstrated how the Migrant Worker Community Program and the team really is a part of a larger ecosystem throughout Windsor Essex, and that there are a number of community partners who get it and get them and really help push the good work forward. So I think we should all keep that in mind. And if you're out there this weekend at the event and you see Martin, be sure to give he and his team a good little pat in the back and a handshake for in recognition of this award and the great work that they're doing.
Thanks, Marion. We appreciate that. And Pinky from the Migrant Worker Community Program, I see her on the screen today. So it's wonderful that Pinky was able to take a moment. Oh, and she's showing the award. That's fantastic.
Right here.
Pinky. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful, Pinky.
And back to you, Charlotte.
Awesome. Thank you for that little kudo, Marion. What a special and important thing to acknowledge. And so much work goes in behind the scenes, and it's nice to see sometimes these really important pieces get a little bit of acknowledgement. So congratulations on that very, very well deserved acknowledgement, and thank you to everybody. We did it. It is exactly 3:30. I don't know how we did it, but we managed to land this bus on time. Thank you to everybody. Wow. What an inspiring community. Keep up the great work, stay in contact, take care of one another, have a wonderful weekend, and maybe some folks will make it out to the safety walk. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.